Hello, beautiful people of YouTube. I hope you're having a beautiful Tuesday. My gosh, it's only Tuesday. I feel like I've worked forever. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about. We need to talk about the possibility of this police department being investigated. We are well aware that there are some issues with this police department. I've also been wanting to talk about Judge Hippler, guys, because he has this resting face. He looks very annoyed. He looks pissed off to me, right? And maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but it is quite possible that he knows the type of case that he is handling, that he's going to have to be dealing with for probably at least through August, right? So I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. We know he doesn't want to be in his shoes. In the very early days when he first took over Judge, he was like, I'm going to do this job, but I don't want to do this job, okay? What did he say? He said, I'm not happy to be here, right? So we're going to be talking about the police giving false information to the court. And if you have not watched my video that I uploaded a couple days ago, you need to go watch that. But I wanted to delve a little bit deeper today. And hopefully the chat is working. For those of you wondering if I'm drinking tea, no, I'm just going to drink some water today because I'm very dehydrated. And somebody gifted me this, so I'm going to hydrate. This is not sponsored. I don't really do sponsorships, guys, for those of you asking. Also, let me try to pull up the chat here. How are you guys doing, by the way? It is a little bit hectic today. Here in Chicago, we are expecting some snow, so I'm not looking forward to that, right? And this false information given by the police to obtain the warrant, misleading the magistrate, okay, misleading the judge on purpose to obtain a warrant is a problem. And I have watched the hearings that took place back in January 23rd and 24th, very long hearings, but I suggest everybody watch them. Just so you guys know, also there is a hearing coming up, if I'm not mistaken, it is February 23rd, right? I believe that's right. But these hearings, we heard that the defense said that this evidence that they used to get the search warrant was false, right? So that is literally the police lying to the court. Let me know how you feel about that, because you guys know I have very strong opinions. I think that we need to hold the police departments and military personnel, law enforcement in general, to higher standards. You can't just go around misleading judges, lying to the court because you want to get a warrant, right? And that would be considered information that is invalid, and meaning that then the warrant would also be invalid, right? And if the warrant is invalid, then that means that all the evidence that has been collected thus far needs to be suppressed, right? And the motion that we have talked about before is basically asking Judge Hippler to quash this search warrant, right? Because this affidavit supporting this exploratory warrant is basically a fabrication by the police department with the ulterior motive to have access to Kohberger's things, right? To search Kohberger's things and to search Kohberger himself, to search the home of Kohberger's parents as well, right? And the affidavit, we know that we're never going to get all the information in the affidavits. We know that naturally it's going to have things that are omitted. And the fact that cops here willingly, again, lied, misled, gave false information to the court, to the judge, the magistrate judge, by the way, it's a big deal. It's a problem, right? So that means that this search and seizure that took place, the search of Brian Kohberger, the search of Brian Kohberger's car, everything that they have done so far would be considered unreasonable. It is and was an unreasonable search. And for those of you who are not aware of your rights, if you are an American, you need to look into that. Just to remind you guys that this unreasonable search is actually a violation of Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, 14th Amendment of our American US Constitution, right? And it's a problem. So let's see if I can pull up the chat here. Bear with me, guys. Who is in the house? Hi, Hoppers, Stoppers, Big Plants, Little City. Hi, Don. Hi, Golden Covered. Hi, Jeff. Hi, guys. Welcome. Leave a like if you are in here. And please, this is something I'm talking about one more time because so many people have messaged me on Instagram and they're asking what I covered 2-3 days ago, right? And it's this, right? I am kind of shocked, and I shouldn't be, by the fact that so many Americans do not comprehend that this was an unreasonable search. And then we have some people saying, but it's totally okay to lie. You know, if they know that it's him, if they know that Brian Koberger actually committed this crime, it's totally okay to lie and make things up and mislead the judge and mislead the court just to get this warrant, right? And that is an even bigger problem, because then that means that at any given time, any law enforcement officer, any law enforcement official can just make shit up. You do understand the problem of that, right? And I'm hoping that most people here understand that giving false information and misleading the magistrate to obtain a warrant is unconstitutional, right? Meaning that then everything that they've done so far needs to be thrown out, right? So this request to quash the search warrant, in my opinion, should also argue that, you know, an officer who is reasonable, an officer who has been properly trained, and we're not going to talk about that in this video because you guys know how I feel about the training of a lot of these officers, and their training records have been questioned. Nonetheless, a well-trained officer should know that the affidavit failed. It completely failed to establish probable cause, right? And they would have not ignored that the magistrate had abandoned his, well, actually it was a her in this case, right? It was a female, her neutrality, right? We understand that judges have to remain neutral, and they are neutral for the most part. But if you write up some fake affidavit leaving out the fact that 2 other sources of red fluid DNA were, you know, of males in the home at the crime scene, and you'll leave that out, that is going to impact if a judge remains neutral or not. So it's a big deal again. And if this affidavit supporting the warrant was actually missing factual information, and, you know, if we have, again, a properly trained officer, a reasonable officer, could have not had a good faith belief in its sufficiency, or that the officer should have known or did know that the information in this affidavit for the warrant was false or insufficient, then we need to quash the search warrant and everything that came from that, because again, it would be considered fruit of the poisonous tree. And again, I am just reiterating this information because I'm shocked at how many people do not understand that cops lying in this very important affidavit to get this search warrant is illegal. It's literally illegal, right? So I wanted to share some of the here is a case that I found, right? Theodore versus Superior Court in 1972, as well as People versus Cooks in 1983, both show that the motion needs to tell the judge with some specificity reasons for contending that the affidavit is inaccurate, right? And this is a problem, because when cops are often writing up warrants that are very broad, the language is very ambiguous, it's kind of like it's not specific, that's a problem, because then the judge is just going to skim through it, right? They're going to just sometimes don't even read the whole affidavit. And then we need these officers to be more specific. That's not me saying that. That is those two cases. Theodore versus Superior Court, 1972, as well as People versus Cooks, 1983. So yeah, you need to be specific. You need to be extremely detailed in your reasons for contending why you want the search warrant or why the affidavit is inaccurate. It goes both ways, right? The court must then find out if such false statements are deleted from the affidavit for the warrant, or if there were material omissions, what remains fails to establish sufficient probable cause to issue the warrant. And this is 1990 People versus Lutenberger, right? So this is why, for those of you who were asking about this warrant being quashed, that is why, okay? We can't have cops up in here lying, making things up just to try to search Bryan Kohberger. Because again, if it happened to any of you, you wouldn't like it either. And it's illegal. So here we have law enforcement leaving out very important information, doing things in a shady way, when if they really had the right guy, you know, if they said this was a done deal from the get-go, there wouldn't be any need for them to be sneaky, to put any false information in this PCA, or to leave things out, or to affect the neutrality of the judge, right? Of the magistrate judge whom they lied to. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that they have a shitty case and they built it on just yapping and praying. And now I'm of the opinion that Judge Hippler is a complete coward, right? We know that he's probably not going to rule the correct way. We know that this is grounds for an instant appeal, okay? This is instant appeal grounds. And hopefully that is what Ann Taylor or what Bryan Kohberger planned to do if he, you know, if things don't go the way we're all hoping it goes. We know that the courts are a joke, and we know that oftentimes courts charge innocent people and they are allowing perpetrators to escape. It happens all the time. If you look at statistics, we understand things like the Innocent Project, for example. So many people. I just saw a case of a guy who was arrested and convicted when he was 18 years old, and I believe he's now in his 60s, just now getting released. He's getting $7 million, which is, how do you even put a price on that? $7 million for losing your entire youth, your entire life in jail. So in my opinion, and I've said this from day one, this is one of those cases where I think the state just, Bill Thompson was like, please, let's just get this guy and hopefully he'll take a plea deal and we're on our merry way. We have a guilty guy. I don't think they were expecting Bryan Kohberger to drag this out as I think it's the right thing to do, right? We know that time is always going to be on your side, especially if you are innocent or if you claim to be innocent. That allows the truth to come out and details to come out. We have learned so much in the last 2 years from Dylan Mortensen, from the victims, even from some 4chan posts, a lot of videos that have been released. We've learned a lot, right? And it is my opinion, guys, that Judge Hippler is actually going to find a way to deny this motion, right? It's very likely that that's what he's going to do, because deep down, I don't believe that, whether it's his conscience or other people above Hippler, something tells me that Hippler is not going to release Bryan Kohberger, right? And police sometimes lie, you know, a lot of times they lie to get through and investigate people, but you cannot lie in an affidavit. You cannot leave out this detailed information. And at the end of the day, we still have to answer to the courts. Bryan Kohberger has to answer to the courts. how is it that that DNA got on that stab button of the sheath, which, by the way, we don't even know to this day if the K-bar was even the weapon used to unalive the 4 victims. Did they even search for other weapons, other potential weapons? We have heard machetes, we have heard golf clubs, we have heard a host of other things, a lot of theories out there, but at the end of the day, there has been no weapon found, right? And it's going to be very interesting going forward to see how Judge Hippler tiptoes around the fact that this search warrant is shit. This case is shit. That this whole thing that has gone down is grounds for instant appeal. And obviously, he's going to try to continue on the path to secure a conviction. That's just my opinion. Some of you guys have disagreed with me, and you said that Judge seems to be a very fair judge. I personally do not think that. I think this judge is a coward, and I think that this judge is not very good at hiding his biases. Again, with judge neutrality, we want judges to remain neutral, right? Because we have the state and then we have the defense, right? They're already doing their own thing. The judge who runs the courtroom is supposed to remain neutral. And with Judge Hippler, all we see is resting bitch faces, specifically when Ann Taylor and the team are talking. And he seems to have a matter-of-fact tone, somewhat of a condescending tone when he is talking to the defense. And that's problematic because, again, if potential jurors are watching these, and very likely they're watching these court hearings, that can definitely lean potential jurors towards one direction. Specifically, in this case, we're probably worried about jurors leaning towards convicting Bryan Kohberger because of bias, because they look up everybody, most people, psychologically speaking, look up to figures of authority, right? If they see the largest, more powerful man in the room, that one being Judge Hippler, making resting bitch faces, being sarcastic with Ann Taylor, just being himself, and stating that, well, the DNA was still found there, right? And they should be allowed to search him, which, by the way, that's going to be a whole other legal issue, right? Because the fact that they went through his parents' trash, it's probably going to be a federal case sometime, long time down the road. If people are able, if the government is able to just search and seize your family members' DNA just because they feel like it. So let me know, what do you guys think about this? Do you think that Judge Hippler is set on securing this conviction? And someone asked me, I'm reading a question here, what do I think about the magistrate being misled if it was done intentional? I personally think it was done intentionally. We know that police officers do things in an intentional manner, especially when it's such a high-profile case. This is a high-profile case. This case has gone viral. It is worldwide. This is not a case that is just within the United States. You guys know, because some of you guys are here from Australia, other countries, right? And even if they did this, even if the police department misled the magistrate intentionally, I personally think that they're not going to admit to that, right? They may say, well, we did exaggerate just a tiny bit, but it is my opinion that they have nothing to take to trial. This has been my opinion since day one, and I've been open-minded. I've remained open-minded, and I'm waiting to see more evidence. I'm waiting to see the state show us something, give us something of substance. I have no feelings towards Bryan Kohberger, except if he actually did it, then you need to show us the evidence. But here, all we've seen is the police giving false information to secure a search warrant that really everything, search warrant included, is all grounds for appeal, right? And I'm also of the opinion that we need to follow the law accountable, right? And we need to hold the people who were involved investigating in this crime accountable. for following the law. So in this case, every single police officer, I would personally would like to see Ann Taylor asking questions. How were they trained? When were they trained? Were they even trained? When's the last time they were trained? Who trained them? Who signed them off? Was it Payne just initialing things? And you would be surprised to learn how many police departments, how many law enforcement agencies fail to do things in an ethical way, in a legal way. We know we live in a very fast-paced world, and as somebody who is active military, active duty military myself back in the day, I've seen a lot of bullshit happen in places of high power. Sometimes there's not enough time. People are pressured, and it's like, you know what? You kind of know how to do your job. Here you go. Let's sign you off and go. Go do what you need to go do. And that's how we end up in these situations, guys. And for those people who, again, are pushing this aside as if it's not a big deal, it is a big deal, right? Because for those of you who are saying this is not a big deal, trust me, when it's you in that situation or one of your loved ones, it's going to be a big deal, babe. It's going to be a big deal. So I'm praying that Judge Hippler, although the realist in me believes that he is on the path, he has the goal to set this man, Bryan Kohberger, to convict him, right? That is probably his goal, and that's just my opinion. You might disagree with me, you might agree with me, but the optimist in me also prays and expects that if he really is a good judge, a fair judge, a transparent judge, that he needs to remain honorable, he needs to remain honest, and there's no need to deceive, there's no need to obfuscate or obscure things in this case. Just let it all out in the open, right? But we understand in the real world that dollars matter, time matters, resources matter, and there has been so much time, so much money, so many taxpayer dollars spent on this case already. So I'm personally hoping that, everything is looked at fairly. And what I can currently see is that Judge Hippler is not very open-minded. Maybe down the road he will change my mind, but that's it for the day, guys. I just wanted to explain to you how this request and why this request to quash this search warrant was done, right? It is because police is giving false information allegedly to mislead this magistrate judge 2.5 years ago to obtain this warrant. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the judge rules on this. I'm hoping that in the next hearing at the end of February here, we have a response from the judge, and I think that's going to be a lot more telling of judge if he is fair or is he not fair, because any judge, I think, can kind of see like what's going on is a problem, there's something shady, and maybe it's possible that Judge Hippler has a resting bitch face because maybe he just knows that this case is kind of a waste of time. Maybe he knows, and he probably does, that this case is already and has already been grounds for appeal since day one. Too much weird information, a lot of information left out. For example, the other two sources of red fluid DNA from other unknown males, right? Maybe the judge is just angry. Maybe he's just upset. Maybe it's too much to handle because he knows that this is a problematic case, and it may involve problematic police departments as well. And if that is the case, all we can do is hope that every police officer that was involved in this search, in the signing off of all legal documents, is properly investigated as well as held accountable, right? So thank you guys for joining me today. Let's see what the chat has to say. Hi, Nadine from South Africa. By the way, guys, sorry if I missed some of you guys. My computer is dumb. I haven't seen Ethan's mom cry. Maybe I missed it. She's cried before. The screams sure sounded real to me. Okay, Granny, Jeff says the fake tears Oscar goes to Christy Gonsalves, then followed by Ethan's mom. The only innocent one is Murphy, and he ain't talking. He old school. That's true. Poor Murphy. Right? If we could see what Murphy saw, was he even there? If you have not watched the video I made last week, I believe, maybe it was longer ago than that, go watch it, because Murphy might be the key to solving this whole thing. Justice for Kilo says, okay, I get that was on a camera in background. No one's seen screaming, so forgive me. How do we know that wasn't part of the 8-hour delay? No charges, just a new thought. Ethan's mom did a press conference with her family standing behind her. Hi, Arrow. Is it Arrow? How do you pronounce it? Hi, Nadine. Yes. Please keep safe. Thank you for the soul person you are and for everything you're doing. Thank you, guys. And again, we're just doing this to expose the truth, right? And I get a lot of hate. I get a lot of hate from previous military members that I was with. I've mentioned that I have a lot of family that is law enforcement, but they don't like me talking shit about police departments because they're like, how could you turn on us? You're a backstabber. I'm like, ma'am, sir, family, loved ones. I'm not here to stab any law enforcement family members, any military family members in the back. I'm literally here for truth, right? We have to expose this effing nonsense because it's not just happening in Idaho. It's really happening everywhere. And that's a shame, because how are we supposed to trust our safety or these police officers with our children? Like, you guys have kids or sisters or brothers or loved ones, and they're interacting with corrupt officers, right? That's a problem when regular, everyday Joe citizens, when we don't trust our local police departments, it's for a reason, right? It's not because we hate the cops or because we hate the military or blah, 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 okay? That lack of trust happens for a reason. And usually it's because the police departments have fucked up time and time again, and we have given them opportunities to fix their fuck ups, to say, I messed up, right? I'm a human. I made a mistake. Instead, they pretend that they didn't lie. Instead, they are giving false information to judges, leaving important things out of search warrants. That's a problem. So Russell says Hitler and the president of the university have a special relationship. I've heard that theory before. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to verify that. If you can verify that, you want to send me some information, you can send it to my Instagram, which is in the description. Cammy says, Patsy, because BLK was taken down, learned of BCK because of Kopaka's phone, allegedly. I don't think Kopaka had anything to do with this case, but that's just me, right? When we look at statistics, the person who is more likely to take people out in this fashion, like it was passionate, probably violent, probably is usually a lover. Okay, statistically speaking, is usually a lover. And we have addressed the Jack Decor issues and the Murphy issue, and I'm not saying that Jack did it. I'm just saying that statistically, it's usually angry lovers, right? Who commit these types of crimes. It's very rarely somebody who has no connection to the victim. Yes, it does happen, right? But for us to assume that somebody who did not know the victims just committed this massive crime, took 4 people out, and this was their first crime, is like 99.99% unbelievable. There's still a tiny chance that it could have happened. Most likely, it's usually people who are very close to the victims, and you guys know how I feel about that, right? This crime was probably more than one person. We have also said this from the early days. If it was really committed at the time the affidavit is telling us, the autopsies are telling us, then it was done rapidly. It is possible that the survivors know something more, or they were just completely out of their minds on illegal substances or booze, right? Now we know that Dylan is an unreliable witness. We had already speculated that, but now we know, because now we've heard Ann Taylor say that she had been drinking and that she mentioned, I don't know if it was a dream or not. So unreliable witness right there. Either way, guys, thank you guys for joining me in the chat. Have a wonderful day. Let me know what you thought about this video. If you want to spread the truth, make sure to leave a like and leave a comment. I was like interacting with you guys, so I hope to see you guys soon. Take care. Stay tuned.